Welcome to the Resiliency of the Human Spirit podcast, where we share all about human triumphs for the collective's healing and empowerment. I am your host, Priscilla Hanley. My guest today is Lisa Markovits. Lisa is a singer, writer, and activist turned International Foundation Director and social entrepreneur. Lisa's foundation is the Pa Arriba Foundation. US born and raised, she has returned after living in Ecuador for 30 years to launch Own It Baby, a company dedicated to helping Gen X women recover their joy after the trauma of unhealthy relationships. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Lisa on right now. Hi, Lisa.
Hi there, Priscilla. How are you? Thank you
I'm
for having
good.
me.
Thank you for joining us here today. I am so honored to connect with you today, Lisa, because we connected a few months ago where you shared about your profound personal journey. And I'm so excited that you're here today because, it's an opportunity for you to share your profound journey and your work with our audience. And so I will jump right in and ask you to start sharing your story with our audience today and the profound work that you're doing, profound lessons that you learned through your journey.
Wow, thank you. That's a big introduction, a big question, and I'll try to do honor to it. And thank you again. And hello to all of your listeners. I'm thrilled to be here. So, I was born in New York, and never in my life did I think I would end up where I ended up, which is in Ecuador for 30 years. I lived in the capital city of Quito, a very beautiful city, about 10,000 feet above sea level, surrounded by mountains, and just a really blessed place in so many ways. And like all societies, with difficulties as well and challenges. I have worked as a writer, as an editor, as a translator. I am a professional musician, a singer, and an occasional composer, more of a lyricist, I think, than a musical composer per se, but I like to write a nice hook. And anyway, one of my songs got me in trouble, as songs sometimes do, and it led me to form a foundation. And the reason it did is that I was inspired by a very horrific story. I will not go into all the details, but there was a very terrible case of violence against women in India. And it's a case called the New Delhi gang rape. Anybody who was there in December 2012 will remember it. If you didn't, you can look it up if you are so inclined. And that inspired me to take a poem I had written and turn it into an anthem song. And this is an anthem song. I hope we'll have a little more time to talk about it later, but that anthem song led to a workshop, led to the creation of this foundation, which uses music and art and technology to help people help themselves in the issue of women's violence, or violence against women, rather, and also led to the creation of a business called Own It Baby. It's amazing the power that music has personally, professionally, to make changes in the world. And I'm living proof of what music can do, both to heal us and to move other people and to create community and to create change. And I came back to the United States, to Asheville, North Carolina, another wonderful mountain town filled with music and culture and art. And I came back 2 years ago. And so now I'm doing my work here and trying to keep working on what I built in Ecuador with the help of many Ecuadorians while I also do work in this country. And that's a very quick version of my story and how I got here.
Nice. So, can you talk a little bit more about your foundation, Pa Arriba Foundation? And so, what kind of resources does it provide to the people in Ecuador?
So let me start by telling you about why we're called Parriba. And Parriba it means onwards and upwards. And why did we create that? Well, the song that I wrote, which is called No More, No Mas, is basically, if I may say so, a stop. Let's stop violence. Let's end it, right? But ending violence isn't enough. We need to raise people up and we need to raise societies up and we need to move, I believe and this is my personal opinion, that we are a very divided country at all levels, whether it's between men and women, between politics, between international relations, you call it, we're divided. And we are aiming to bring people together as communities and start at the bottom and rise up. And that's what Parriba refers to. And we created the foundation in the United States. But the truth is, we've done all of our work in Ecuador. And what exactly have we done? We've done a couple of things. And I'll leave some pilot projects aside and focus on our main programs. One of them is a program we call Neighborly Conversations, Conversando con tu vecindad in Spanish. And this uses a methodology developed in Brazil that is part of Brazil's public health system. And now there are community therapists, as we are called, I am one, all around the world, helping people help themselves, helping people realize that if there's a little stone in your shoe that's bothering you, or if you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, like Atlas, there's knowledge inside of you and inside of your community that does not substitute for expert knowledge. It's a complement to it, but it's a really good place to start a self-healing process. And it's done in a group space. And we have worked over 6 years. We have a weekly dialogue circle. We've helped over 6,000 people find a path to self-healing, find a way to source the support that they need from people, sometimes even strangers, people they never even knew, but who have lived similar things to them and can say, hey, I figured out how to solve the problem this way. And so where you used to see a dark tunnel, you now see a light, and you have, all these little options of lights that come on, and one of them speaks to you, and nobody judges you, and nobody tells you what to do, but you're given options, and all of a sudden your perspective opens up. And so that is a psychosocial support program we've had going on for a very long time. And it's inserted in an international network of people doing this same work. So that's one very interesting program that we have created, because we realized that in Ecuador, there just wasn't enough mental health support for people who needed it. And so this was a way to reach a lot of people, infinitely replicable, scalable. So that's one program using someone else's methodology, which it has been an incredible learning experience for me and very supportive to the community. It's still ongoing. And the other program that we developed actually came out of those dialogue circles, but it is our proprietary program, and it was my idea, and it was implemented with the help of a number of very important partners, as well as the community itself. And this is Oye Sara, which we would translate into Hey Sarah in English. And it's a digital platform that provides very important information at your fingertips in just 3 clicks from anywhere in the country. You can find out where to get help if you're suffering from violence. We don't cover everyone. We cover women, children, teens, the LGBTQ community, and the human mobility population, in other words, refugees and migrants. And for those populations, we have mapped the country. We did what they call actor mapping. We identified approximately 1,500 different resources, psychological support, legal advisory services, the justice system itself, if you want to file a report, which, by the way, almost nobody does, but we have the information there. We found all sorts of prevention resources and ways to help people resolve their issues without, hopefully, resorting to violence, as a way to include information on prevention. And this digital platform, nothing like it ever existed. There were a couple of apps that maybe gave you 4 or 5 really big national organizations that you could, call up if you wanted to. But if you were in the middle of the Amazon jungle, those big organizations are outside of your reach. And so you didn't know where to go. So with this, we brought the information down to a much more local level. We hope to do it even more local. We hope to find other services. We don't provide the services. We give you the information on how to find it. And that may not seem like a big deal, but if you have 30 seconds to hide from your aggressor and find the information you need in order to know where to go to get help, being able to find it, and just at your cell phone, or to go into your school, or to go into the store and ask to borrow a phone, that can be life-saving. And we are finding that there is really great acceptance of this program organically, because we haven't had the money to really promote it. We're getting 50,000 unique visits per month to the platform in a country of 18 million people. I'm very sad that there's so much need for it, but thank God it exists. And we really want to keep it going. And that's a big challenge now that I've come back to the US, but it's something I really believe in. And we hope to expand it throughout all of Latin America. And I'm even receiving interested phone calls from India and from other places where they say, wow, to have that information, validated, checked out right there at the tip of my hands, it could be a lifesaver. So those are our two main programs. And then we've done a lot of other stuff, but those are the ones I like to share as general programs. And finally, I'll just say we've done a lot of educommunicational work. So communications campaigns on prevention. We've launched an anthem song, this song that I've told you about. And we have an ongoing process to help cultural change so that we can speak to each other with more respect and with less violence.
Wow. I know the last call we had, you said that the whole digital platform was built by volunteers, correct? You didn't have much
Correct.
funding.
We've had
So,
no fun.
yeah.
That's what's amazing. We've had zero funding. And we have done this as a community coming together and working through it. We have a wonderful psychologist named Carla Zambrano. She is a volunteer, and she supervised a team of volunteers, students, and people who had suffered from violence. They did the mapping. And so she pulled all that together. And then Javier Paez of Synergy Social, they are a developer, and they do a lot of work on social entrepreneurship issues, and they came and put together this platform for us. And the only money we've had is what I have pulled out of my pocket to pay for hosting. We were supposed to have a lot of other help from a lot of organizations and government institutions, but everything fell through. And we kept going anyway, because we really believe that this is a mission for me and for everybody on the team. All the people, all the community therapists, they work for free. I have personally held space for 4,000 or 5,000 people over 5 years without ever receiving a penny, putting in money in order to make this happen. We believe in what we're doing. It's innovative, disruptive work. Not everyone understands our proposal, but as they start to see how much the community is accepting it, as evidenced by 50,000 unique visits per month, I think people are beginning to see how important it is. And we hope to be able to reach more people with it.
50,000 people a month, that's like, you can really say that you're saving 50,000 people a month, right?
I can't guarantee that because 50,000 unique hits, it's an anonymous platform on purpose. A lot of people are afraid to reach out for help. And so
Right.
we don't track who is coming in. And some of them could be bots, that's possible.
I see.
But even if half of them are bots, even if half of them are people, and I'm being totally transparent here because this is the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if half of them are bots and only half of them are actual people looking for support, that's still 25,000 people a month.
Exactly.
And even if only half of those decided to take us up on an offer and go look for help, and even if half of those who went to look for help actually found help, because many people in the Ecuadorian system are re-victimized because there aren't enough resources to really provide the help that's necessary. But we're now down to what, 6,000 some odd people? Even if we took all that down, 6,000 people a month finding the help they need,
Yeah.
kudos to my team, and kudos to us for having the vision to create this tool. And kudos to those people who have had the courage to step forward and say, I think I need help. And we're thrilled to be able to provide that. And we can't keep doing it as volunteers alone. It's gotten to a point where it's too big, it needs too much. This has to become a real, official, big program. And that needs money, it needs team, it needs people on the board of directors that recognize the vision and want to make it happen, work with us. It needs a lot of stuff, but we've already proven our concept. And I'm so proud of my team. We were given an award last November by the provincial government of Pichincha. And it was a very important award named for an indigenous woman, Dolores Cacuango, who was also one of the first indigenous activists for women in the country. It was a real honor to receive that. And it was supposed to come with things other than just a trophy, but it didn't. So we keep going on our own and looking for support. And we keep trying to be as creative and looking for support as we have been in creating the programs. And we are convinced that there are going to be people who believe in what we're doing and see its potential, not just for Ecuador, but for the world.
Right.
That's why I'm here to talk about it everywhere I can. and try to drum up the support that we need to keep doing this deep work.
So if you could, can you be more specific when you say support? What exactly are you looking for in support?
Well, clearly, any foundation director is going to tell you we need money. That's straight up the honest to God truth. And in our case, I'm telling you, we've done this with zero money except little amounts that I have put in personally to cover some tech. But I've put in that money as well as all of my time, which means that everyone on my team has worked on this often 6 to 8 hours a day while holding down other jobs, while doing work Saturday night. I mean, we've run the whole office off of our WhatsApp chat. So to say that we have a startup mentality and a successful one doesn't even begin to describe it. So money is one of them, and that can come through donations. It can come through sponsorship. And it can come also through purchasing a course, which is something I'm hoping we'll have time to talk about, whereby you're helping yourself as well as helping us continue on this important work in Ecuador and then eventually, hopefully, around the world. So that's one of the things we need. We are actively looking for anyone who can help us out with grant writing and can follow up on that, people who know how to fundraise, people who can sit on a board, but not just for them to put their name on a board, but really to get their hands dirty and work. There is no one in this foundation that has not rolled up their sleeves. And so that's the kind of person that we are calling in. We're also looking for help in communications to keep getting our communications, our prevention campaigns out there. We've done that again, full volunteer staff. I've been leading a lot of that because I do have a communications background, but to be the director and be the communications lead and sweep the floor, at some point we need to be doing some delegation and getting some people in who really know what they're doing and can help us. And I think there are a lot of people out there who would believe in what we're doing and who would understand it and who'd be willing to give us a hand. And if we get too many, we'll also need people to manage those people.
Right.
But this is my call out to anybody who feels drawn to an innovative, disruptive foundation that actually has proven it has a new idea to make a dent in violence against women and other vulnerable populations to join in and be a part of this and help se para arriba and go onwards and upwards. And that's what we're looking for.
So I did some research for our call today. As of 2022, the population in Ecuador is like 18 million, and 6 million of that are women. And from what I found, 65% of women in Ecuador have suffered some domestic violence situation. And so that adds up to like 4 million women. So, from your perspective, why do you think domestic violence is so high against women in Ecuador?
So let me answer that question on a few levels. I don't have up-to-date population figures. The proportion of women to men sounds a little off to me. I think it's closer to even.
Okay.
Chase, the numbers you cited might be a little low. Also, the 65% of women living some kind of violence in their lives is a very often cited figure from the Census Bureau, and I believe it's probably underreported. So if anything, I think the numbers you just shared are low, and if anything, they are probably at least double the numbers that we see in the United States, and those are horrible numbers as well. So yes, the numbers are terrible, and what is causing it? So the first thing I would say is that I believe it's a cultural issue. I believe there is a culture of machismo, of chauvinism, which we see in a lot of other places in the world. More traditional societies have a lot of it. I don't think it's, unfortunately, I think it's also the case to a great extent in the US, but there's been a lot more work done here, and we will see, where, as we keep moving forward over the next few years and with the elections that are coming up, where women's rights will end up at the end of the next 4 years. I think that's a serious question to be contemplated without talking politics, but just talking, that I believe that women need to be in an equal rights position. And so I'm concerned about that. But in Ecuador, yeah, it's a very big issue, and violence has become so culturally normalized against children, against women, against all of these vulnerable groups that we're working with. Certainly LGBTQ and the migrant population as well are suffering from it. But if we're going to talk specifically about women, yes, I believe it's an issue of culture, of women being seen as inferior, of people not having the education to learn how to communicate, how to talk about problems. I think there are issues of men feeling a need to be bigger, stronger, seen as being in control. And I think women have been also culturally trained to be generally, not always, submissive and to accept a lesser self-love, a lesser self-esteem. And a lot of these cultural issues come in the house, they come in school, they come on the school bus, they come at work. I don't know many women who have not at some point been a victim of some kind of violence, by which I do not necessarily mean mediatic level violence. I'm not just talking about femicides, although Ecuador's rate of femicides, I don't remember the current figure, but it's horrible. Last time I looked, it was one every 26 hours or something like that. It was terrible. I'd have to check that number, but it's bad, and it's gotten worse in the last number of years as they have been tracking more of what murders can be actually considered femicides. That's thanks to a foundation called Aldea, which has done a lot of work to raise awareness about that. The country is also losing something like 4.9% of GDP every year due to lost productivity from the women themselves and their co-workers who are witnesses to what has happened, and the men. And this is based on work time loss due to health issues, financial concerns, just so many things that happen when there's violence. So this is a big problem. And unfortunately, the government, which has the biggest responsibility to take care of this legally, on the one hand, there aren't enough resources assigned. On another hand, there's a lot of re-victimization. And there's also a cultural, again, going back to culture, right? There is a cultural tendency to not want to report. You know, this is private. This is family business. Let's sweep it under the rug and pretend that it doesn't exist, even though everybody knows it exists. You know, it's a well-spoken secret, as they would say in Spanish, un secreto a voces. Everybody knows it's happened, but they don't want to face it. And we can't force anyone to face it. We can't force anyone to report. I think only 6% of the cases of violence against women are actually reported. And that's why, rather than come in and say, you have to do something, which is not my role, it's not your role, it's not anybody's role, it's each one of us saying, hey, I don't want to live like this anymore. What can I do to solve my problem? And that's why we educate in terms of saying, you're worth more. And these are ways in which violence manifests. Maybe you don't even know that that's violence, but that's not normal. So we're trying to help people redefine their normal, realize that they have choices, and show them where they can get the help they need. And that's how our foundation has worked on this massive issue, is to try to correct some of those cultural norms that we think are harmful, or at least offer another vision, and then invite people to come into community spaces where they can get some support and realize they're not the only ones who have gone through this. And then if they decide to move farther, help them find the support they need through the platform we've built. Because it's a big, big problem, and it's multi-generational. And if we don't find a way to cut the cycle, it will continue to be something that provokes mass human cost, economic cost. The violence is just a downward spiral any way you see it. So that's what we've been doing.
You know, it's sad that it's the cultural issue, because that's going to
Terrible.
take a while to, to change. But I am so glad that you're putting in the effort to break the cycle. I mean, you're putting in the effort to make a change. And so I honor you for that. And so I want to move to you talked about your digital program, Own It Baby. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So Own It Baby LLC is the name of my company. And it comes out of a lovely story in which I had a vision that told me to own it. And that I thought that was just a wonderful name to share with other women, that we can go out and we can own it. We can own the biggest, brightest, most beautiful, happy, joyful version of ourselves that we can be. And one of the things that holds us back as women from owning it, baby, is the stress and trauma of past or current unhealthy relationships, unhealthy romantic relationships. And if we're still carrying around the weight of that, and we can be carrying it because we're in one today, or we ended one last year and we still haven't quite, felt like ourselves since it ended, or maybe we lived one 10 or 20 years ago and we're in a relationship now that's a better relationship, but every once in a while something comes up and we feel like we're worth less, or we don't trust our inner voice, or somebody says something and it rubs us wrong, and our gut is telling us it's wrong, but we're like, oh honey, it's okay. It's probably not okay. And that acceptance is probably something we're carrying from a long time ago. And so we've done a lot of work as a foundation, as I said, helping people to find their own strength, their own self-love, their self-esteem. And I said to myself, well, what can I do to get the word out to more people, help more people, and at the same time, let it be something that allows me to live my life? Because if I'm not living my life, how can I help anybody else do that? That's one of the biggest lessons we've had from working with so much communities. You have to take care of yourself first. And also, now that I've left Ecuador, I want to leave this legacy of this foundation, not just staying as it is, but continuing to grow. And so part of the creativity that as an artist I have applied to all of this work is to say, okay, how can I create financial stability, financial sustainability for me, for this platform, and still help people? Because that is my mission. I still want to help women own it. And the result of a lot of thinking and a lot of coaching and a lot of sitting down literally at the drawing board and figuring out is a digital course called From Caterpillar to Butterfly, Shepherding Women from Trauma to Joy. And as the name implies, the idea is that we all have that beautiful butterfly inside of us. And let's coax her out. Let's help our inner child remember how to play. Let's get back in touch with our inner voice and say, I deserve better, and take the steps required to come into that colorful, flirty, happy, joyful butterfly space. And how do we do it? Because it can be really painful to look at some of these issues and to accept that to some extent, hey, I'm the one who allowed it to happen. I'm the one who valued myself so little that I let these things happen to me. And I'm not taking the blame off of aggressors, because they also certainly have their part in this, but we cannot change the other. All we can decide to do is to work on ourselves. And the idea From Caterpillar to Butterfly is to give a safe space, because you can do it wherever you want, whenever you want. When you buy the course, you decide when you want to do it. It is all filmed, as a result of which you can do it anonymously. You can do it when you're feeling safe, whenever you're feeling brave. And there are 5 modules, and also a meditation and an EFT tapping session that use music and art and whatever you consider ritual. And everyone is going to have their own version of that, to help us recognize what we allowed to become normal and that is not good for us, to take a step forward in terms of deciding that we don't want that to be our normal. So we're going to take away that indoctrination. We're going to flip it, and we're going to use music that reaches a part of our body and our mind and our soul that mere words often cannot. We're going to have self-expression, and then we're going to use ritual to seal a choice that we want to have a different life, a better life, a more joy-filled life. And this course can be done over 5 weeks. It can be done over 5 years. It's yours to play with it the way that works best for you. Because some of the assignments, there will be people who do them in an hour. But then I'm going to make them sit for at least a week and feel, not just think, but feel what it brought up in them, right? The minimum you could do it in is 5 weeks. But if you need to take more time, take the time. It is a low-cost, high-value proposal from someone who has worked with 6,000 people to bring music and art and self-healing back into your life, re-find your joy, and cleanse whatever has been weighing you down. And that's what the course is about.
So I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. So what would you tell the skeptics? You know, I'm sure there's skeptics out there that think that art and music is not a way to heal trauma. What would you say to them?
Oh, I'd say so many things to them. Where shall I start? First of all, human beings have been healing ourselves with music and art since we exist. That's why you still have cave paintings. It's why every child, when they're upset, will, they'll find a way to self-soothe, and it often includes some kind of art. And if you put a stick in their hand and dirt on the ground, they're going to draw. So, and they're going to hum and they're going to sing and they're going to dance and they're going to find all these different things. So, self-expression is just part of being human. So let's start with that. Second of all, I'll start with something that I state very clearly in the FAQs on the information page. I'm not trying to substitute for more traditional therapeutic options. This is a complement. It is a way that you can take your first steps towards healing. It might be something you come to when nothing else has worked, but you will know if you're meant to be there, you'll be there. And you will know if it's right for you. And I don't pretend to fit with everyone. So if what you like is a more intellectual approach, that's fine. And if that works for you, I'm so happy for you. And yet I know that so many of us have been told what our rights are. And so many of us have heard our friends or our mothers or our sisters say, he's not right for you. And we're still sitting with this weight. And so I'm offering yet another option. Like I said about the dialogue circles, it's yet another one of those lights that you can choose to pick or not pick. But I'm a big believer in it, and I know what it's done for me. And I'm a big believer in an artistic path, an artistic journey as a way to heal ourselves and to inspire others. However, let me now get past all of that, which, as far as I'm concerned, is so common sense that it really doesn't need explanation or scientific inquiry. And yet, I too was raised in a family and a society and an academic community that values research. And I know that there are skeptics out there who need to see research. So let me just share that we did research as a foundation. We were honored to be part of a study performed by a professor who was at the University of Delaware and then moved to Rutgers University. And she worked with us. It was during the pandemic. And so we had certain limitations, such as we had to do everything virtually, which is not that different from a digital course. And we created 6 sessions using a combination of a workshop that I had developed from my song, which is at this point rolled into module 1 of the course. And then we did 5 sessions where women who were victims of violence got to come together in dialogue circles like the ones we've done as a foundation and talk with a community about some of the issues they face and some of the solutions they have found. And this has been published. This study has been published. It is publicly available and people can read it. It is the theoretical basis for what I have created. I have then tweaked the work that we did with these women. 100% of them said they would recommend the work that we did. 100% of them want to continue. Many of them actually became community therapists as a result of this. And the only constructive criticism they gave us on everything we did as a methodology was that they wanted a space for self-expression. They wanted to create art. The dialogue circles use music, they use poetry. It's all incorporated as part of what we did as a study. But I took it a step further and gave the women what they asked for and gave them the instructions, inspiration, ideas, and framework with which to use their own self-expression to continue their healing process. So there is a lot of published evidence on art therapy, on music therapy being used in trauma. There are studies on how emotional freedom technique works, on how meditation works. All of the individual sub items of what I have included in this course are already massively studied, as well as my having based my work on the research that we did as a foundation. So, like I said, I could talk about this for a long time. You're not the first person who's asked me the question. And as we say in the dialogue circles, you will arrive at the circle when you're meant to be there. And you will arrive at this course when it is the right thing for you, whether it's for your first steps or it's a complement to something else. Everyone knows that art and music, everyone in the field knows that art and music help with this trauma. Not everyone has come up with a concrete, fun, low cost, infinitely replicable way to help women with it. And I hope and I believe that I have. And I invite your listeners, if this, rings true with any of you, read the sales page, see if it talks to you. And we will have the links in Priscilla's header in the podcast somewhere, and read it. And if you have questions, write to me and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Nice. So do you want to put out the links? Do you want to just tell the audience the links?
I'd be happy to do that. It's always great to have it written out, but you can find out more information about this course. You'll see my name here on the screen, Lisa Markovits. So the website you need to look at is www.lisamarkovits.com/butterfly. And that's where you will find the information. And I'm also giving Priscilla a link to include where you can download a free checklist to help you understand if what you are feeling inside, that little bug inside your belly, or your heart that's saying to you, something's not right about my relationship, or I still haven't healed from that last one. And I want to understand, am I crazy? Because a lot of us, we ask our, am I crazy? Like, am I making things up? Because, gaslighting is a part of this type of relationship. And you come to think that you don't know what you're talking about. So there's this checklist that I've created. You can look through it, and it should help you have a better idea if you're living anything on the checklist on a regular basis. We can all go through a bad day. Our partners have bad days. That's normal. But if any of these behaviors that you're observing are happening all the time, or if it's a lot of them, then maybe you want to look into a little bit more of how you can find help, whether it's through my course or any other way that you are comfortable with. And I just invite you to really try to start to learn to listen to your inner voice, because she knows. She knows.
Right. And what is the title of the checklist?
It's called a wake up checklist, and
Okay.
wake up. It's wake up to the behaviors that have been normalized in our society in terms of violence against women. And some of them are milder, some of them are stronger, but I don't like to put a value judgment on it, because, to say something along the lines of, well, if you're disrespected, that's a mild version of violence. I don't know. I mean, if we start thinking about a rather famous song, Respect,
Yes,
um,
my favorite.
right?
Yeah.
How important is it to feel respected? So is that a mild form of I don't know, violence? Or is that something that maybe it's really important? If you don't feel respected by your partner, how important is that to you? So
Right.
you choose. You choose. And that's what the checklist is for, is from, as I said, I like to think of it as from milder to stronger, but again, it all depends on how it lands in your body, in your soul, in your mind. And so again, no judgment, just information. Information.
Thank you. I will certainly put all the links in the show notes. And so I just want to ask you, you've had such a profound journey because Lisa, I can see you like helping the world with this platform, the one that you created. I can see it just being adopted by so many countries because it's so useful and helpful to the population. So through the experiences in your life, what profound lessons did you learn about yourself and about your human journey?
Wow. Um, well, let me start by saying that thank you for seeing and sharing my vision. And yes, that platform and the course, I believe, can help millions of people. Um, and Facebook started out as a directory too, right?
Right.
So there's so many places we can take that, and the course can also go to so many other places. And I've designed both of them in a way that hopefully will allow me to make the most impact in this issue that I care so much about. Um, but for me to be able to do this work, yeah, I've had a profound journey. Absolutely. I had to heal myself. And I think that I'm going to put this in singer's terms. If I, as a singer, want you to feel moved by the notes that I sing, I need to have been moved by them first. And there's an awful lot of work that we singers do to get songs into our body, to really feel them, to go through whatever feelings they may provoke in us. And then, and only then, can I sing the song in a way that instead of making me feel happy or sad or angry or empowered or whatever it is that the song provokes, any particular song, it's got to go through me first. And then I can send it out to you. And that way you can then, in an easier, gentler way, open up to feeling that vibration. But it's got to go through me first. So a lot of what I'm sharing, I've gone through. A lot of what I'm sharing, I have lived at some level. And again, for each person, a lack of respect for one person can be minor. And for another person, it can be huge. So I'm not going to share all the details of what I've lived through, except to say that I've seen a lot of this. And I've seen it in me. I've seen it in dear friends. I've seen it in more than 6,000 people that I have held space for in community dialogue circles. I have felt everything that I am sharing with the world. I felt it through my body, through my soul. And that has changed me enormously. It's given me more patience with myself. It's given me a lot more patience with the people who choose to change their lives. And perhaps, if I have to admit it, a bit less patience with the people who choose to keep sweeping things under the rug. I have less patience for that. Living in Ecuador, in a beautiful Latin American Andean country, has shown me also that in the big decisions in life, I was trained in a pretty academic family, a lot of people who are professors and lawyers and very intellectual. And they kept telling me your mind is what decides what you do in life. And living in Latin America, that's not true. I don't believe that is true anymore. Yes, do we need to develop our mind? Of course. And I have a lot of education, formal and informal, that has developed my mind in a lot of ways. But I've learned that the motor of my big life decisions is not my mind, it's my heart. And I have learned to accept that my heart actually knows best. And once my heart makes a decision, then I bring in this powerful brain and say, how do I make that happen? Right? But when my heart says, I have a mission to help women feel empowered and get beyond what society has tried to make them feel, that's a heart decision. It's the heart that has held me at this for 10 or 12, 13, maybe years, trying to make a change. It's not my brain. My brain came up with a platform. My brain worked with my heart to come up with a digital course. But my heart said, this is important to me. And I want to live differently. And I want my children to live in a different world. And I want you and your children to live in a different world. So there's been a huge transformation in me believing in myself, believing that that mission really is important and that I can contribute to it positively. And that in one way or another, I can humbly offer my voice, my music, my insights to, I don't know, let's start with one woman and see how many we can get to. That I think I have something to offer to help you heal yourself. I am not the one who will heal you. I just give you tools to do it. And I tell you, you're not alone. And I believe in you. And if I could do it, you can too.
Wow, I love that. I love what you said about the heart being the first thing that you listen to, and then the mind comes in. I think they work together, but the heart comes first, obviously. Definitely.
They have to work together. It's not one or the other. But we in the West are often taught to look, like you said, the skeptics. Let's just look for the data. Okay, I gave you data. But if you read through that page that describes my course, because it talked to you, that it talked to you is not your brain, it's your heart. And music and art and poetry and dance, they fulfill you so much because they're reaching your soul. And we need our brains. And I am by no means advocating for leaving brains out of the equation. Of course not. But I'm saying that when you know that relationship is bad, your head is going to give you all the excuses to stay in it because your society taught you that at an intellectual level, but your heart and your gut, that little girl inside of you knows better. And that's who I'm trying to speak to.
Yeah, I think the heart will never lie to you. Your mind will come up with excuses like, oh, I can't leave because I don't have money, I don't have resources. But if your heart thinks that, no, this is not right for me, I have to go, I will always listen to my heart. I've learned that too through my own journey. So, okay, so we have like 5 minutes left, and I have a
Okay.
signature closing question here that I ask all my guests. So here is my final question for you. What is your closing message for humanity to help in our collective healing and empowerment?
Wow, I could think about that for a lot longer than 5 minutes. I think it starts in each one of us. And I believe, not only do I believe, but I have proven to myself, to others, through the work that my team and I have performed. It starts in each one of us, loving ourselves, respecting ourselves for who we truly are, valuing ourselves, placing boundaries when things are not right, joining together in community in a way that that same respect and that same love and that same patience that we have learned to apply to ourselves can then be applied to others. We don't always have to agree with everyone else, but we should hopefully, if we want to be healed as a collective, start by healing ourselves and allowing others to take their path of building themselves to be the best they can be and respecting each other and talking about things and trying to find common ground. There are so many spaces today in which we are very busy tearing each other apart. What would it be like if we built ourselves and each other up? If we found commonalities in what we live as human beings, in what we experience as children growing into adults, if we would stop drawing political or cult like indoctrinated lines in the sand, and we just were to be able to take a vision of this world in which we could actually be loved. I mean, I can give very specific practical examples, but I think it all just comes down to love yourself, love your neighbor, love your community, love your planet, respect, dialogue. And, I sound a bit like a peacenik, and I do unfortunately have to admit that there are times where this doesn't work, where this approach doesn't work. And there are times where we need to go to battle in order to protect these values. And I wish that weren't the case. But in the end, if we can find more commonalities than differences and we can talk about them with respect and love, I think we have a lot better chance of healing ourselves and the world. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I so agree, so resonate with your message. And so thank you, Lisa, for being here today and for sharing your energy with us and your wisdom. Like I said, I am so honored to be in your virtual presence because you are such a powerful soul. And I know your journey has been difficult, but keep at it because this is going to be huge. I know it's going to be huge.
I don't know. I just got goosebumps when you said that. I sometimes call my work the Goosebump Project. And every time I try to back off of it, and there's been so many times because it's not easy. Every time someone has said something as beautiful as what you just said, and I will share, of course, your words with my team, who also deserve a lot of the credit for what we have created, couldn't do it alone. There's no way to do this alone. And the whole point of what we are is we have to build a community of peace. If we want to move onwards and upwards, it takes everybody. And at this point, we have changed many lives. I have many beautiful stories of individual cases where we have made a difference. A woman who wanted to commit suicide and realized she didn't need to, and there were other options. A child who missed having contact with her father and somehow healed and managed to call him back into her life and realized she was better off without him because she was so empowered and she didn't want to be treated that way. Women who have left behind abusive relationships. We've done a lot of amazing work, and I know we can do more. And I hope that the time we have shared inspires someone else to make a change in their lives. And if they choose to join us, whether through a donation or buying a course or volunteering or just making a change in their community, then we'll have made a difference together. And that's what this is all about. So thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you. And for everybody who's watching and listening, thank you for your time. And until next time, bye for now.